Far Cry is rapidly growing in popularity, guys, and it's becoming more and more one of my favorite franchises out there. You know, the first couple of Far Cry games that came out, I wasn't a massive fan of, but once we got to like Far Cry 3 and, 4, and then obviously 5, 5 was certainly my favorite. I know a lot of people have their feelings towards Far Cry 5. Some loved it, some didn't so much. Some people really just love Far Cry 3 as a whole. And, Far Cry New Dawn I thought was certainly a step in the wrong direction. However, I still thought that, it's kind of somewhat of a spin-off similar to what Far Cry Primal was, so I totally accept it as for what it is. That being said, though, the up-and-coming title in the Far Cry franchise being Far Cry 6 is one that I'm very excited about for a number of reasons. I know many of you out there are as well. The ties potentially to Far Cry 3, which is what's getting everybody in the community super, excited, myself included. Giancarlo Esposito playing the main villain is another thing very intriguing about this. I want to go ahead, guys, and talk about, as we sit here right now, all the things that we know about Far Cry 6, and we can kind of break it down, speculate, talk about the rumblings, the things going on behind the scenes, and things that are maybe being leaked as well. And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. We can have a real conversation about it. So let's get into it. In an article written by Lauren Morton of PC Gamer, Giancarlo Esposito plays the heavy as Far Cry moves to the fictional Caribbean country of Yara. Far Cry 6 leaves behind Far Cry 5's and New Dawn's Montana and heads for a Caribbean vacation in the fictional country of Yara, where things are, unsurprisingly, a bit chaotic. Ubisoft's next shooter is set amidst the riots trying to oust evil dictator El Presidente from power. So, the big one is the release date, guys. Far Cry 6 is expected to launch sometime in 2021 for PC Stadia, the PS4, PS5, and Xbox One and Xbox Series X. According to a Microsoft Store listing, Far Cry 6 will launch on May 25th, 2021. Ubisoft hasn't confirmed this date, but Microsoft Store states published before official announcement have proven true in the past. Now, during an earnings report call, Ubisoft announced that the game would be delayed from its original February 18, 2021 date to later in the year. So obviously they haven't confirmed when that date is. My personal opinion, though, guys, is that I would take any date given to you with Far Cry 6 and really any game up and coming with a pinch of salt, simply because of the ongoing situation in our world. There's a possibility that these games or the release date could be pushed back. It could come up sooner, but most likely it could very well stay in the May 25th slot, or it could get pushed to later on in the year, maybe even 2022. Fingers crossed, guys, it comes out sooner rather than later, but we certainly want a finished, finalized product. We've seen with other games that have come out like Cyberpunk 2077 releasing way too soon, and then obviously the huge backlash. I would wait. I would just like to get the finalized product, right? That we could get everything we want out of it, and that there's no, glitches, bugs, things of that nature, which of course with any AAA release, guys, there's going to be little things here and there, but we just want it to be overall a finalized product. So take your time, Ubisoft, please. Now, obviously there's been a number of trailers, guys. Far Cry 6's setting is the tropical nation of Yara. Ubisoft says that it believes a lot of fans were ready to return to a tropical setting, which is part of what influenced Yara. Ubisoft say that the nation's living postcard aesthetic and vintage cars were inspired by Cuba. Esperanza is its capital city, the first main urban environment in a Far Cry game, which Ubisoft says will play a bit differently from past games. It almost sounds a bit like Assassin's Creed. So that's kind of interesting. When that was another thing that kind of tied people to the thought that this could be set in around Far Cry 3 in that setting. Just because it's tropical and things of that nature. Lots of people are very excited about it. You'll play as a revolutionary named Danny Rojas. Ubisoft say that you'll be able to choose to play Far Cry 6 as a man or woman. Depending on your choice, Danny will be voiced by either Sean Ray or Nisa Gundas. We knew that if we're going to tell the revolution story, if we're going to tell a story about someone in a guerrilla movement, you need to have that personal connection with them. You need someone who's rooted in the world, who has a background, so we wanted proper performance capture. We wanted to have a voice. And I love that. I think that's great. I'm excited about that to see kind of, the differences there. We see more and more games now coming out where you can play either male or female. I'm very excited to see what what this looks like moving into this game. I'm very excited about that. Now, Guns for Hire are back. Like in Far Cry 5, you'll be able to hire buddies to run around and fight with you. Amigos for Hire is the name this time around, and one of the amigos is a wiener dog named Chorizo. He has a doggy wheelchair, and he will protect him at all costs, or I should say we will protect him at all costs. Or maybe he'll protect us. You never know. I think he's very cute. I'm excited to see kind of what that's going to look like in gameplay and such. So another big point for people is, what's the story in Far Cry 6? So in Far Cry 6, you'll be fighting in a revolution against the rule of Yara's dictator Anton Castillo, who has been in power for 50 years. It appears to be a dangerous time for the country, with the trailer showing government agents with guns and rat shields and civilians with explosives. Ubisoft says its writing team spent time in Cuba getting to know the island and meeting former guerrilla revolutionaries that influenced the game's story. I think that's always really cool as well. Ubisoft say that Anton witnessed his own father being executed 50 years ago. Part of how he rationalizes his policies and the views that he attempts to pass on to his own son, Diego. He believes that not only do the Castillos deserve to be in power, but they're the only ones that are going to be able to see Yara through becoming a paradise. Once again, Ubisoft haven't said yet how Danny becomes involved with the two Castillos just yet, but Kavari tells Game Informer that that triangle of characters between Anton, Diego, and Danny is absolutely crucial. So very interesting. Look, when I heard about the story, it definitely sounds like a Far Cry game. Through and through, sounds like a Far Cry game. Obviously, coming off of the Seed family in Far Cry 5, this is going to be a very interesting take as well. Each member or each villain in each of these games has a very, kind of different personality, but very twisted. And so it's going to be interesting. That's the big thing that Far Cry has become popular for, is the villain. Now, here's the big question, guys. Is Diego actually a young Voss from Far Cry 3? After the Far Cry 6 reveal trailer, fans began speculating that Far Cry 6 could actually be a prequel to Far Cry 3. The theory hinges on Diego Castillo being a young Voss based on the scar both have on their right eyebrow. Voss's voice actor Michael Mando teased a possible return to the role during a Reddit Q&A with fans, saying, "Voss is my spirit animal. Having co-created that character is something that will always be dear to me. I still get recognized as Voss, and I still feel the outpouring of love for that character makes me very happy. Who knows, maybe I'll reprise the role very soon." So him saying that is very interesting, guys. Obviously, the connection between the eye scar is another one that's really interesting. Voss is a fan favorite villain of the series, so folks would certainly welcome his return. Though things may not be quite so simple. In Far Cry 6's reveal trailer, you can see Diego wearing what looks like modern headphones, which doesn't exactly square with him being the younger version of Voss, who was born in 1985 and would have been Diego's age in the late 90s. Consider this one wishful thinking for now. I agree with that. We also saw, I believe, a phone, it looked like a smartphone on the table as well in the trailer, which also kind of messes with that, the timeline, right? However, when we look at Far Cry 5 and how that game ended, what's to say that there's some kind of time travel in this universe? I would not put it past Ubisoft whatsoever to do something like that here, potentially in this game. Time travel is definitely one that I think could come, and I think that kind of really builds on, that lore, that story of Far Cry, and really what makes this universe so interesting is that it kind of keeps you on your toes. You just never know what's going to happen, and I think, guys, that we are going to have a lot of things to look forward to with Far Cry 6, to say the least. Whether you're talking about Diego being a potential young Voss, whether you're talking about Anton Castillo and Giancarlo Esposito's character, of course, playing as or portraying the villain, there's a lot here that I think is going to make this story, that's going to make this game really great. Now, the one thing I really want, guys, is a full package, of course. I want that single-player story, but I want those co-op modes. I want multiplayer modes, guys, to bring you back to the experience after you're done playing the game. I think that's a huge way to continue building upon the legacy, the lore, story, fan base, everything around Far Cry. I think it's imperative that Ubisoft does that here with this game at launch. Not like what The Last of Us is doing with waiting, and kind of trying to create their multiplayer experience right now. Cyberpunk 2077 doing the exact same thing, waiting later on to get their multiplayer experience. Launch the game with everything as that full package so that you're able to dive into everything that the game really has to offer. I'm excited about it, guys. I really am. And I would love to hear you guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you guys think so far about Far Cry 6? Let me know. And for more Far Cry 6 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.